Good morning. In one of the Facebook groups I belong to, there's been some questions regarding vintage sewing machines and disengaging the hand wheel for bobbin winding, but the needle's still moving up and down. What we found is most of the time that's due to old oil or grease in the hand wheel assembly or the clutch assembly of the hand wheel, causing some drag, and that friction is enough for the wheel to continue to rotate. I was going to do some step-by-step photos for a few folks, but I figured, heck, let's try a video. So I got the tripod out, we'll get some machines out, and show how to remove the hand wheel so that you can clean the shaft and the area inside the hand wheel and the clutch disc and reassemble them. We're going to work with three machines today. I've got a Singer 301, a Singer 192K, and a Singer 1591 with the potted motor. The process for these three machines will cover pretty much everything that Singer has built, whether it's a 301, the 201s and the 1591s with the potted motors, or any of the belt drive machines. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll see how this works out. On a 301, the first thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and remove the top cover. You don't actually have to, but it does make it a little easier to see everything when you're reassembling it. So on those, just remove the two screws, lift the top cover off, and set it aside. I'm going to set this 192 out of the way so I don't knock it on the floor. And once you've got that, if you look at the end of the hand wheel, there is one screw here. And if you remove this screw, or even just back it out quite a ways, you don't even have to completely remove it. I find it's easier to completely remove it. Grab the hand wheel, disengage the clutch, and unscrew this knob completely. Set that knob aside. There is a disc here that has some pins on it. You're going to want to make sure that when you reassemble it that those pins are still pointing out. But go ahead and just pull that disc off the end and set it aside. Then if you grab the hand wheel, in some cases it'll just pull straight out. In others you may have to wiggle it a little as you pull. But if you pull it straight out, you've removed the hand wheel. Now you can clean out inside here, clean out the inside of the shaft, wipe down that area, and go ahead and put it back together. Basically slide it onto the shaft, maybe wiggle it back and forth a little so that the gear engages with the gear inside the machine, slide it on. With the clutch disc, you would clean both sides. I like to use a little sewing machine oil. This one I actually just did recently, so it doesn't need to be done again. Slide it onto the grooves in the shaft with the three little tabs pointing up. Those are what keep the hand wheel, the lock knob, from unscrewing completely. And then what I do is just go ahead, screw that back on. And what I like to do to make sure that it's in the right place is I'll just tighten it up all the way. Put this screw back in. Tighten the screw down. You know, just good and tight. You don't have to reef on it. And then now what'll happen is when it'll just turn that 1/3 of a turn and disengage the hand wheel. That's all there is to it. Go ahead and replace the top cover. Put the screws back in. And at that point, once you disengage the hand wheel to wind bobbins, you shouldn't have any drag, or at least not enough to cause the needle to move up and down while you're winding your bobbins. Let me go ahead and set the 301 aside. Now, on the machines with the potted motor, such as the 1591 or the 201, on those you don't even have a cover to remove. Just go ahead and remove this screw. Same thing as on the 301. Set that screw aside. Go ahead, grab the hand wheel, unscrew the clutch knob, and on some of these it's going to be stiff, and you may have to grab the needle bar just to provide enough drag to be able to remove that. On these, same thing. It's going to have the washer with the three little knobs sticking out. Go ahead and set those aside. Now to remove the hand wheel on this, they are generally a little stiffer because there is a bit of a seal. Just wiggle it back and forth and pull. Sometimes I find if you rotate it around, it'll go ahead and come all the way out. And this one I have not serviced yet, so it is a little gunky. And this one's going to take a little more elbow grease to remove the knob, or remove the hand wheel. And actually on this one I can see I've got a ton of goo in there. That one may have to set aside in oil and let sit overnight. But this machine was one that just came in a cabinet I'd gotten, and I haven't touched this one at all yet. But same thing, once you pull the hand wheel out, a little wiggle here also can help. And you'll see it slowly coming out. Now don't apply too much force anywhere, but just a little rotate and pull, rotate and pull. And this one I can definitely tell needed some oil. But as you can see, it is slowly coming out. So I would recommend, if your machine hasn't been apart in a while, go ahead and remove that knob and the clutch disc and apply some oil to the end of that ahead of time. But as you can see, I've almost got this one all the way out. Just another little bit here, and she should slide right out. But just wiggle, pull, wiggle, pull. You know, don't reef on it too hard because you don't want to bend anything. This one's being a little stiffer than they usually are. We're almost there. I can actually see the edge of the hand wheel and the start of the gear. But if you just rotate and wiggle, they will usually come out. This does not affect the timing of the machine at all. And there we go. And I can see on this one I have a ton of old grease here. What I would do then is grab a rag. I like to use, these are old used cloth diapers that I buy from a diaper service. I'll wipe off any excess that's here. The shaft on this one, I can see a lot of dried old oil on it. But clean that area out around the edge. Go ahead and grab some oil. I'm going to step away here for just a second. And I will go through eventually and clean this one a lot more thoroughly. But for now, just to put it back together, I'm going to take my rag, put a little oil on it, wipe out the inside of the hand wheel hole. And you can see there is a lot of dirt and old oil down in there. You would do the same thing to the end of the shaft. Clean any of that off. And then when I go to reassemble on these, because they are gear drive, I will take a little bit of grease. And I like to drop it on the table. We'll go ahead and put some grease in on that worm gear. And you can also put a little bit of grease here on the gear on the hand wheel. Apply a little oil to the end of the shaft. Then take the hand wheel, start it onto the shaft, and very carefully slide it back in. As you can see, it went in a lot easier now that I'd cleaned some out and gotten some oil on it. Go ahead and take the clutch disc, go ahead and clean that. Make sure that the 3 knobs, the little stops, are pointing out. The little teeth on it, or the little prongs sticking out, will engage on the end of the shaft there. And then go ahead, screw the clutch knob back on. I like to tighten it up just snug like you would if you were sewing. And reinstall the screw. And now with that screw in, it'll only turn just enough to disengage, and you can see the hand wheel spins without spinning the shaft. Now let's go ahead and grab the last machine. And this one is a belt drive. I'm using a 192K this morning. This one's going to be similar to the 66s, pretty much any machine that is belt driven. And what you'll want to do is go ahead, take and loosen the motor bracket, and take the belt, lift up the motor, take the belt off, make sure your bobbin winder's out of the way, remove the screw, set it aside, unscrew that. Now on these, the clutch disc is a little different. This one doesn't have the stop pins. It's got these tabs on the outside that cause the stop. Just pay attention to whether these little teeth are facing up or down when you remove it. Put it back in the same way. Set that down, and the hand wheel will just slide off the end. Not a whole lot there. Clean it, oil it, take the hand wheel, slide it back on, put your clutch disc back in the same spot, grab your knob, screw it back on, just get it snug, and then go ahead and put the screw back in. Once you've done this to any of these machines, you clean the shaft, put some new oil on it, you shouldn't have the problem where the needle moves up and down while winding bobbins. So like I said, if you just unscrew that now, the hand wheel spins free without rotating the rest of the machine. Put the belt back on. Lift up the motor. And tighten the motor bracket. There we go. I hope this helps some of you folks out and gives you the confidence to go ahead and clean that so that your needle no longer moves up and down while you're winding bobbins. Thank you and have a great day.